G'day, listeners. Welcome to Barkarati, the sailing podcast, the great sailing podcast it has evolved into. It's been one of our great enjoyments over the last year, and we just continue to go from strength to strength. That's because it's a couple of good mates just having a good time. Let's bring in the first one, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, Exalted One.
How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Can we make this one quick? I've got an early start.
Okay. More Etchells training.
I am. I'm up at 6:45 at the boat, and that is the truth, Vicey.
Yeah. Let's bring in him.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Mate, every week, BP, you can't keep making excuses like this.
Yeah.
So, big week, man. I even went yachting, believe it or not. Coming out the back of COVID here. So, all good. It was a massive 4 knots. So, just to get the eye back in. And just for our listeners, just so you know, all the T-shirts have been sent out. Next week, I'll put on the website what we have available, and you can listen. And for all our guests that are listening, the merchandise packs are in the mail.
Still.
You idiot.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this week, I'm going to get this week underway straight away because we kind of feel a little bit privileged to have these people as our guests, and we don't want to keep them waiting. Episode 5, we had Richie Allanson on the show talking about their win in the Etchells World Champs just a few weeks beforehand. He sailed with Colin Beashel and Iain Murray. So 2 blokes you may or may not have heard of. If you haven't heard of them, obviously welcome to our sport of sailing. Otherwise, beyond that, then they're people you'd know really well. And so the idea has been kicked around and BP put this together, so congratulations, BP. Let's talk to one of the best sailing teams in the world about putting together a World Championship winning team and go through the process. So we reached out to Iain and Colin and Richie, and they're all here to talk to us. So welcome, gentlemen, to our show.
Well, thanks for having us, boys.
Absolute pleasure.
I must say, just before we kick it off, men, Richie, that episode 5, going back to episode 5, the amount of people that had tapped me on the shoulder down at the yacht club and said how informative that was. It was still, some of them, it's still their best episode. So, keep up the good work and don't stuff this one up, I guess.
Big shoes to fill now, mate.
Well, hopefully I can do as good a job as you guys have been doing for the last 12 months or so.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, so let's kick it off. So you threesome came together to win the World Championships in Corpus Christi in Texas last year on your boat Havoc, number 1461 from memory. There was I guess that was an effectively part of a 4-year program if you trace it back with the relationship with the guys on Magpie. And the build-up to Corpus Christi, I remember from episode 5, Richie, you said Iain made the phone call to you and said, let's do a proper campaign, like an Olympic campaign. Is that continuing on or has it got even bigger?
I think it has continued on, and maybe the gains that we get to see now are much smaller, but it's the attention to detail, I think, is what it came down to, and you know what a privilege to actually get an opportunity to do something like that. It's the sort of thing you dream of. It's rarely happens because you're never afforded the time or the common goal amongst the team to actually make it happen. So I think, yes, it is continuing. The training that we're doing at the moment is pretty special, getting to sail against the Australian sailing team athletes because they're looking for proper racing to do. So, yeah, I guess it's continuing, and we're getting to test ourselves against arguably the best sailors in Australia.
So just before we go to the other guys, just explain to everyone what's going on. You know, BP keeps whinging about getting up at 6:30 in the morning and being out there. What is actually going on? We had Will Ryan last week. So what is happening with Etchells in Australia right now?
Well, in Sydney, we've got a like-minded group of people that have recognised that there's opportunities to be had, and then Ian's association with the Australian sailing team has basically brought those guys in to come. They're looking for quality racing. So we've started some informal type regattas where we do the sailing instructions are pretty simple. We nominate what time we're going to start on a Saturday morning, and it's normally early in the morning to take advantage of the drainage breeze coming down the Parramatta River.
Told you.
You can pay me later, BP.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's fairly fluid the way it works, in that we say that we're going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning, for example, and we run as many races as we can, and it's been pretty cool in that we started off doing a 6-minute sequence where we did a 3-minute practice start, and then we'd roll into a second start and do a 2-lap windward leeward. So we modified that for last weekend to say let's make it 8 minutes, because we found that the 3 minutes was a bit unrealistic as far as getting the starting procedure going. So we did a 3-minute practice start, rolled into a 5-minute normal start, and then do a 2-lap windward leeward. Managed to get 3 races in on Saturday in the breeze, and then another 6 on Sunday. So it works pretty well, and it's all about being inclusive. Anybody's welcome to join us as long as they've got an Etchells, and the rules are fairly simple: play by the rules, or you'll be asked to leave the course.
Great,
but makes it fun. Everybody's enjoying it.
All right, well let's go back. We'll come back to that at the end, but let's go into the process where it first started from that phone call. So, Ian, to you, that first phone call from, what we heard, you wanted to do a campaign. Now, you're a former world champion in the Etchell. Colin's a former world champion in the Etchell. What made this one so different? What was the thought process that sparked it for you, mate, or was it a discussion with other people, or what?
Look, it started, I think I'd come back from, I'd been away with the America's Cup and everything, and, it was just, you come back inspired watching those guys and, all the efforts of, the great sailors and the America's Cup teams, and, you're, as I said, you're inspired to, to put your shoulder to the wheel yourself. I'd sailed a lot with Richie and Michael Coxon in the Etchell. So with Richie and a lot of other things as well. And anyway, look, both of us, I think, were coming off previous projects, and I think there was a like-mindedness to, to go and do it and to try and do it properly. And we started out probably in a soft way with an old boat, and progressed our way through and embarked on a development of the old boat in a number of stages. Took that to the World Championships, and then came back and said, right, okay, I think we figured out a whole lot of things, not being sailing competitively in Etchells for some time, and then sort of went about designing all of that into a brand new boat. And that took some time. We campaigned for Queensland, and, we got a lot of it right, and we got some of it, we didn't get right. And particularly the lighter wind part of the campaign. And we got a lot of that in Queensland, which is what we weren't expecting up there in Moreton Bay. And sort of version 2 of that boat, which was basically a brand new, updated rig concept, and that's the boat we took to Corpus Christi, and Colin joined us, after the Queensland Worlds, and that added another sort of, I think, like-minded dimension to the boat of, trying to figure out what we were trying to achieve. And a lot of it was derived from, other boats that we'd sailed, probably Stars, the way the rig works a little bit, and sailing on, some of the Richie on far 40s or the Koniki 38s or TP52s. A lot of things that were commonly going on as development in other classes, we tried to bring to the Etchells class and set about putting that into the boat and the rig. And then that turned into success in the lead up to Corpus Christi and Corpus Christi.
It's how you going, guys? Thanks for coming along there. But it seems to at the start, it probably didn't start off as the idea to be a business, but it's flourishing right now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a business. I think it's a passion more than anything.
Yeah.
Look, Richie's the man, on the tools and delivering everything, and it's part of what Richie has brought to the class is an unfettered passion to make the boats as good as it possibly can, and people want that. They wanted the involvement, whether it be in the sails or the masts or the trailers, or they want to do things correctly. And now it's rolling over into the racing and these informal race series that we're running on a bi-weekly basis that people buy into it. And so it's all inclusive, as Richie said, and and it's pretty transparent, and everyone, I think, feels that sailing's a wonderful sport. It hasn't really got any limitations around participation, and for a lot of people in the Etchells, the inclusion of the youth, the replenishment of passion from the mature community within the class, has been great to see, and to see that blend across the board, and now add in some of the Australian sailing people. It's sort of like it's the new restaurant on the block. It's the place to be.
Well, it's definitely working. I can tell you since it all started for me 2 or 3 months ago. It's the sailing's awesome, and the people that it is attracting is amazing. And I think that's a really good thing for the class in Australia, but also around the world. I mean, people will look at what we're doing and say, they're really putting the effort in down there.
How many boats are you getting out?
We've been getting sort of, 9, 10, 12 boats. Probably 12 was the most we've had, isn't it, Richie?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, so.
Yeah, good. Cool.
You've got to remember that this is 7 o'clock in the morning too.
See, told you again, boys.
It's not traditional sailing, but, maybe, like a lot of the things that we've done that haven't been traditional, that it strikes a chord that, we're not taking up the whole weekend. We're just taking up the mornings and allowing people to do a few other things. And there's a lot of competition in life these days. So anyway, we're trying to create good sailing, good competition, good camaraderie between the fleet. And so anyway, we'll just keep pushing that barrow.
Hey, maybe a question for Colin. Since you've started all of this and gauging the level increase or the skill increase, has it just keeps getting cranked up week by week?
Well, it's, to me, it's an opportunity to go back to just a high level of sort of sailing again after sort of doing a few Olympics and that sort of stuff. And I'd sort of gone away from sailing a little bit because I needed a bit of a break. But having the opportunity to come back and sail with Richie, who I've done a fair bit of sailing with, and I've raced against Iain a lot, but never actually really sailed with him up until we jumped onto the Etchells, really. And so it was interesting to get back into an area where you're treating it, whilst it's very strict one design, you are treating it as a development class as well within the rules. And that's what, interests me a great deal. Even the star class sailing, again, another one design class, but with parameters that you could, let yourself try to invent little bits and pieces on the boat, little systems or whatever, which to allow you to bring in other techniques into your sailing. And that, to a large degree, is what Iain and Richie were doing with these boats, was updating the systems, different ways of shooting the sails, and that to try to get a better performance out of the boats. And at the end of the day, that's what basically happened. And it's just interesting to be part of that. You know, I came in late on the train, but hopefully I was able to contribute a little bit to some of that. And, you know, we're still trying to think of different ways to keep going forward. And as Iain alluded to, people want to see some development. You know, they want to get onto a new boat or another boat and have something else to tweak or something else to play with and actually get a response from it. And that's what the package is putting together.
Only an Aussie would say a few Olympics when you've been to 6, mate.
I say that after a few beers.
Exactly.
Hey, we spoke to some of the 5 guys in one of our episodes, and they're running a complete open book policy in their trainings that they're doing. Is it the same case with you guys in regards to the little tweaks that you're doing and finding, or are you still holding back just a little bit?
Well, all the boats, when we deliver the boats, they're all set up to the same numbers, and we've been completely open book up to this point. But there probably will come a time, Bicey, when we work on the next thing, you know, we'll have to keep it a bit in-house. You know, we've got to try and defend the title and stay ahead of the curve. But I think, you know, that's the next challenge. That's what's going to drive us towards keeping this thing rolling along. And, you know, you're just trying to better yourself all the time. You know, I think, you know, Cole sort of undersold himself there in he hopes that he was contributed to it. He was the final piece of the puzzle. He helped. He was like the glue that brought the whole package together, and his experience with the starboat rigs and that listening to he and Iain talk about what we're trying to do with the rigs really helps me understand what the absolute goal was, and it was just a bit, it was different. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we did. Was just because that's how you did it 20 years ago didn't mean that it shouldn't be looked at. And I think it was quite refreshing. And, you know, Cole came in, and when he got to Corpus Christi and another boat was there, he paid us the ultimate compliment by saying, "Phew, you've got everything sorted here. The boat's great. You've done the sails. The rig's good. This is just like an Olympic campaign." And, you know, what better compliment could you have from someone like that? So, yeah, I think Cole coming along, and his racecraft and his skills there just helped us make better decisions. You know, the talk on the boat when we're going around the track, it's unusual that we differ with what we're seeing, but at the same time, there's a mutual respect, and, you know, it's no one's ever growled at or whatever. It's just, let's see how we can get this thing around the track faster than anybody else.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, time on water obviously is a massive thing, and along with all those tweaks. But what's it all leading to? What's the next big one? If we ever have a sailing regatta again in the world.
Well, I guess the biggest regatta on the current schedule is probably the Nationals in January. But, you know, the way Victoria's going, it'll be interesting to see how many people we get going to that. But that's sort of the next big one. There's quite a few regattas scheduled for the new year, being the Nationals, New South Wales States, Queens, Victorian States, and then ultimately the Worlds next November. So fingers crossed the World gets sorted.
Which brings up an interesting point. When we had you on the show last, you just won the Worlds, and I think we discussed it was going to be the shortest time anyone was going to hold the title of World Champion, because it was a 6-month turnaround to the next Worlds, I believe. Was that correct?
No, it was the other way. Martin Hill, he won it in Brisbane whatever it was,
and then
November, and we took it off him in July, and
hold on to it for 18 months.
Julian Plant said to me when he was at the prize giving, he goes, "I'm sure I was up on that stage not that long ago."
Yeah, right. Okay.
Sorry, Beeper.
No, you're right, go on.
So I think one of the things that I'm interested in is when we talked originally, Richie, Iain, you made the statement you wanted to validate with the two boating, with GT, Iain's ideas on rig setup. And you've mentioned rig a lot already tonight. And then, you've tied that back to the stars. So I've got a fair suspicion I know what you were trying to do, particularly given the things you said before, Richie. But I just wanted to touch, Iain, where did the ideas come from, Iain? Is that just, your designer brain, or was it experience in the stars, or was it the 505 sailing you did, or what?
Yeah. Back to the 5-0. Everything goes back to the 5-0.
Everything ends up on the 5-0.
Bloody sun comes up around the 5-0s, doesn't it?
So it goes back to the narrow sheeting on the flying out and the bendy boom that Gary Geets had. And
yep.
Here we go.
So with the
look, I just think from the time we've all grown up in development classes, and whether they be flying ants, cherubs, flying 11s, a lot of time in those classes, and I think that creates a mindset of wanting to learn more, and so I think the inquisitive part of thing, and it's spending quite a lot of time in the yacht design area, is that you're always looking for that little bit more. Which part of this boat can I make better? And so whether and a lot of I think it's gone through in phases of development of different types of boats. We've had wooden mast, aluminium mast, carbon fibre mast, composite rigging, stainless steel rigging, Dacron sails, different battens, you name it. And, and a lot of attention on foil shapes and sizes and drags and bulbs and everything. So, there's been a huge amount of development go on in classes, and you look at the 18-footers, I designed the 18-footer hull, it must be close to 30 years ago now. And you look at that boat today, it's the same boat to what it was then. And you wouldn't think it was the same boat, but it is. But it's just an entirely different rig that's developed over a period of time. And so, the wonderful thing about sailing is we're always learning, whether it's something to do with the rig or something to do with the hull or the way we sail the boats, or it's a wonderful thing, and it covers a lot of demographic and age of people and stuff. So for me, there's not one particular thing that drove us to the rig in the Etchell. It was all about let's do it all right. And, every time I've been involved in an Etchell, it was always, in the old days, the keels were always on crooked.
Yep.
Every single Etchell had the keel on crooked. And so you do your best to try to fix that up. And when we built 1461, there was a huge amount of emphasis on, getting the chain plates in the right place, getting the keel straight, getting the mast gate in the middle, the forestay in the middle, making sure we could, minimise the weight where we could, the use of soft attachments all over the boat rather than stainless steel fastenings, the system so that they work, system so they were minimised. The boat was clean, the water egress and movement around the boat was done. There was all new floorboards, stiffness of things, new console. It's like, where do you start and where do you stop? And then you move on to the rig, maximising the stiffness, minimising the weight. Look at the rigging, look at the spreader attachments, look at all the bits and pieces in the rig, look at where they bend because you go around the top mark and the back stays on. Oh, there's too much welding there. Well, let's get rid of that.
Yep. Yeah. So it's what what I'm hearing, Ian, is and from Richie as well. It's the whole process of just don't take what you've been given as the standard way. Look at it from a different way. It's almost, a different brain, different thinking in the brain. Just step away and look at it from another angle and see what you sort of forgotten to look at in a way.
Yeah, I think probably the way I look at it, Jordan, when Marcus Blackmore bought the Emirates Team New Zealand TP52, when you went down below on that boat, there was things like the little reelers that you had for pulling the halyard up that mounts the halyards to the top of the mast.
Yep.
Well, that had a weight on it. Every item on that boat was weighed. They knew exactly what was there, and it comes down to attention to detail.
Yep.
And whenever you ask that question, oh, should we do that? And someone goes, oh, it doesn't make that much difference. You've got to do it. Because that one thing on its own may not make that difference. But when you've been through this building boats, from the moment you start designing the boat to the time it's launched, that question gets asked, 1,000 times?
Yeah.
So if you tick that box every time, you're going to be that boat length faster up the beat than the next guy. And we're talking about a game of inches where if you can be 3 feet further advanced up the course, the guy, you make the cross into the top mark, you've got a very different day to when you don't. If you're ducking 25 boats, it's a long, long day. If you can make that cross, happy days. And I think that was really, for me, just that attention to detail. And we had this blank sheet of paper to work with. And, yeah, the rules are there. We had to work within those. But let's make sure that everything was to the end of the tolerance it needed to be, or the weight it needed to be, or did we have to have that? Some things you've got to weigh up. You say, well, it's worth having that weight because we need that function. But ultimately, it was all about making sure the boat worked properly and was the best it could be.
Hey, just going back one step for Ian and Colin, when you were competitors in the Star class, did you have the same style of sailing, and or you're completely different? So when you come together now, are you aligned like the team that you are now, or it took a bit to get aligned?
I could never see that far ahead to see what Colin's style was.
Sounds like Big Fella was using clear air down the run as his strategy.
Well, Colin's not saying a word.
Well, I think we thought the same. It was just a matter of, it's like a little bit like the Etchells are now. It's an experience thing, like I've been doing it for a long, long time, and I knew about it. That's what was interesting coming into this group, especially with the working with GT. It was, we worked so closely together, and it was a complete open book between the two boats, and trying to get the best out of each boat as far as the tuning and the trimming and everything like that goes. And it, that was a huge contributing factor to the success of the two boats. But you go back into the sort of the Olympic arena of the past, especially here in Australia to a large degree, whereas everyone was trying to look after themselves and try to get the Olympic spot rather than whereas now the Australian sailing team generally, or in past years, it's a little bit different at the moment, but have been led along the path of sharing a lot more information within the people from the same country or from Australia, sort of thing, to raise the level of each class. Whereas in the past it was very much just I'm here to look after myself sort of thing, and whilst we'll be mates on the shore, there's not that much sharing of information sort of thing.
Yeah, I think
so. It's been pretty good in this class to do that.
Really, Colin and I only, we really only. We probably only overlapped in the Star class, for 3 or 4 years, really, wouldn't we, Colin? We came in.
That's right. Yeah.
We came in 2002 or something like that, and then you did 2004, and then you didn't really sail that much after that.
Yeah, after that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, as an outsider looking in, I think all the fine detail work is really important. But when you actually go back and look at the Corpus Christi results, and you see, your friends in Magpie, GT's boat, had a pretty poor start to the regatta. They had everything identical to you guys. They had a pretty poor start to the regatta. Then you go and sit down with them and find out their rake's slightly different, change their rake, and they go and win the next 5 races. That tells me that really it comes down to just getting your tune right, getting your boat right, and then sailing your boat well. So there's nothing magic that you guys are doing, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I don't think there's anything real magic to us. It's going sailing, and
it's the fun stuff.
You've got 3 guys on the boat who I was thinking about earlier. You probably couldn't find 3 guys of sort of our age, I guess you would say, that would have more experience in a top level racing than the 3 of us. Certainly in this country, the amount of racing and the amount of regattas that Richie's won in the last, 10 years on, far 40s, Maconochie 38s, Etchells, you name it. He's probably done more sailing than anyone else in Australia, other than, some of the full-time Olympic athletes. And you throw in sort of, my extra few years and time doing other campaigns, and, it's a lot of sailing and a lot of experience to draw back on. And as Richie said earlier, it's sort of, we all get on well together. We all just have the same goal of trying to put everything together and tick the boxes and not get upset at, if things aren't going that well, then you just get on with it and try to make the next decision the correct one and build from there.
I must say, I do have to pinch myself every now and again when I go out sailing and I'm sailing against these guys as well as the others that are there. It's pretty awe-inspiring, to be honest.
So in saying that, BP, and this is for any of the guests to answer, who are the good blokes out there, and who are the pains in the arses, and who are the ones that you can give the best banter to?
Oh, mate, you put me on the spot.
No, Richie or Ian or Colin can answer.
Oh, no, we do get stuck into Sevi Jarvan a fair bit.
Let's see if you can get a word in.
I've got some stories, but not
he uses more words between the top mark and the offset than the 3 of us would use in a whole regatta.
I believe it.
That would probably be the big one. The rest of us are all really polite, G'day, guys. How are you? One of us are going the wrong way.
Yeah.
No one's stuck, hasn't it?
I think there's plenty of banter out there. There is a bit of tongue in cheek going on, and there's some youth teams that are involved now, and we get to wind them up a bit on the start line, particularly if we've got our timing right and they don't. We might let them know that they're late.
I'll tell you what, though, they're not afraid. They're not. They're straight into it.
So one of our bar karate campaigns, Ian, this is probably for you, is to actually promote a whole lot more banter between the yachties. Like, for example, when Ben was coming out here for the Sail GP and it was all, look out for us, we're coming to get you, blah, blah, blah. We want to bring more banter back into the sport.
Bring back the biff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, bring kind of boxing style banter. So if you ever get the chance, especially with the Olympic team, just sneak in a few words in their ear to really turn it up a couple of notches.
Oh, look, we've got some good mentors in the program, like Tommy Slingsby and stuff. He's never backwards and coming forwards. With his banter or his boxing and his experience. So
we did pick him up with his shark comment with the Sail GP. So we've hooked him on that one.
And we must admit, Will Ryan last week, he's currently the king of the banter.
Yep.
He likes ripping the piss out of anyone and everyone. So he's a good one.
Well, he certainly runs the best form of defence as attack.
He was
just got just got to pull the filters off, Will, and off you go.
Yeah. What about that from the high performance manager role in? I saw you in at the Worlds in Aarhus, and you know you've renewed your contract and agreement there with the team. What is the views on the Olympics? You reckon we'll go again? I guess you can't really forecast that. You know, it's not your area of expertise. But...
Well, look, you know, we don't know, but you know, we know that the IOC, the AOC are doing everything they possibly can to hold the Olympics, you know, starting on the 23rd of July, 2021. And, you know, there's an incredible will to make it happen. There's an incredible investment that's been made in it. And I think it's, you know, I'm sort of looking and going, well, it's most probably going to happen unless the world goes completely upside down. And, you know, is it going to be a normal Olympics? Are they going to find a vaccine? Is it going to be people in the grandstands? You know, us from a sailing point of view, you know, down in Enoshima Island, it's, you know, it's probably a wonderfully safe venue. You know, we don't have a whole lot of spectators in sailing. So, you know, we're probably the least likely to be affected out of many of the sports. So, look, I think, you know, all we can do is keep on pressing on as hard as we can every day, you know, to polish these, you know, some of them are mature sailors like Will and Matt, you know, and we're really, you know, we've got the fine grit out and the big polish going on. But a really great opportunity for some of our younger sailors like Mara Stransky and
she's a good sailor. That
Nia and Monique and Tess Lloyd and Jamie Ryan, you know, that you know, the girls that are getting some really great specialist coaching and experience, you know, from their relative, the people that are supporting them. So, you know, I think it's, you know, if we don't get, we're going to get some good success if we get to compete, and I think we're building for 2024 at the same time.
Oh, no, it's good. I mean, obviously the team's doing a great job. We're pretty proud of them. They've been amazing. With your role with the America's Cup, that's still going on from memory, isn't it?
Yeah.
What, the roll or the cup?
No, the roll. The roll.
Well, I'm the race director for the cup.
That's
so,
what...
you know, it all, you know, it's all been thrown up in the air because, you know, I agreed to do the cup because it was going to be after the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then, sorry.
You're going to be
now
busy.
the Olympics is going to be after the cup.
So we've got a proposal for you around the America's Cup course. Depending on the bubble, whether we can get across. We want to propose that we can put a barge right in the middle of the course, fill it full of beer.
Oh, mate.
The bar karate barge in the middle of the course. Can we get can we get that signed off now?
A little dispensation?
Dispensation?
Yeah. I can't see a problem with it, really.
Jordan, why were you so worried earlier?
I'm not.
Why you went on about this for an hour? I'm so worried about Husky. I'm so worried.
No, I don't worry about things like that, BP. Bossy will tell you that.
We had Shark Island in the middle of Sail GP in Sydney.
Yeah.
You know, we had a paddle wheeler in the middle of the course in New York. Like, what's wrong with the bar karate barge?
That's right.
Exactly.
I love how you
heard it first at barkarate.com.
We've got Tillett on board. We've got you on board. I think we're pretty good.
We've got everyone on board. Well,
sounds like you just need Don King to get the banter going.
Well,
exactly.
There's only one bloke you got to get on board.
Yeah.
What, Dolts?
Yeah, that bloke.
We got some dirt.
No.
All right, let's get back to the Etchells side of things. I'm intrigued just with your setup when you went for the tighter rig. I actually do want to talk a little bit about the strategy of that with the tighter 4-star. You went for that, obviously played with the caps to bring the 4-star up to sheet further inboard. Was that a plan around all the experience you guys have all had on the boats you're sailing? Like, are you finding you've got a little bit of extra. Like, have you picked up a lot in height on the light winds? Is that is one thing that's come from that?
Look, I think the biggest gain in height is probably more in like 10, 12 knots. In the lighter breezes like we've had a lot of in the last, few weeks, where you're not full hiking and stuff, it's that you're tending to drive looking for a little bit more apparent speed in the boat. So, trying to get that extra height is not always the answer to it all.
But you can round up your jib.
It's a nice tool to have in your tool bag, but I think it's having the flexibility of, being able to make the most out of it, your position on the race course, and turn it into a tactical advantage by, you can put the bow down and go fast, or you can put the bow up and go high.
Yeah. I'm interested on another element. So, as Colin said, you guys all have had a pretty amazing career each. I've been lucky enough to sail with a couple of blokes who've been superstars, and when I've been on their boat sailing with them and they make a tactical call and I go, oh, hang on, I'm not sure that's right. The thought process that goes through my head in that situation is, well, they're pretty good at what they're doing, so maybe let's just take a step back and think, how does that go on your boat? Like, do you guys ever just sort of, someone makes a call and says, do you just all look and go, oh, well, yeah, he probably knows what he's doing? Or do you just go, hang on, I'm probably the best here. How does it work?
No, look, I think we've all had a bit of a go at it, and I think what we've done is divide the responsibilities around the boat a little bit more, and sort of, from my point of view, to be the third person in making a tactical decision and concentrate on not hitting other boats and doing my job of getting us off the start and keeping the boat in the right groove and powered up and everything. And that's a role that probably worked with both Colin and Richie in. But I think when Colin came on board and, the tactical responsibility got delegated primarily to Colin with, Richie's input on gusts coming and going and stuff is, that I think was a really big change in how we sailed the boat and gave us a lot more consistency, in how we place the boat around the race course, what our risk profile was, and I think in the end of the day, it's produced a far more consistent result.
Yeah. So Colin, on that, do you have a fundamental philosophy on your strategy when you go out into the course? Is there sort of overriding drivers that you use?
No, not really.
Just be first.
A lot of it's seat of the pants sort of stuff. The three of us just discussing what we're actually seeing. Like, at the end of the day, you're talking pretty short windward beats. So it's mostly, you can nearly see what you're going to get for the first half of the beat, which is going to set up the scenario anyway, unless it's, shore favoured or current favoured one side or the other or something like that. Or, there's quite a strong forecast to be favouring one side of the beat to the other. Unless it's one of those factors are quite dominant. To me, it's having which side we think maybe the pressure looks the best on, and taking it from there. Like the basic scenario is we'll go for a beat, sail up to windward before the start. The three of us will discuss which side we think actually looks better for pressure, and then we'll make a decision on how the line is set up, how we think the fleet will behave on that. But our most overriding goal at the start is to be able to sail our own boat off the start line and generally be able to be going the direction we want to be going in. If that involves tacking, then that'll we'll work at starting in a position where it's more the possibility of that happening. and then just taking it from there. I sort of, Iain does the starts, basically say we want to be at the bottom third, top third or middle, and Ian's in charge of trying to deliver us into a good position there.
So if we want to go right, that means we start at the pin on port.
Port tacker. Pretty simple, really. Just get out in front and increase your lead. I like
That's it.
Yeah.
It is a simple philosophy if you can get it right. And obviously you've thought that through, though, by putting the right boat underneath you. You've gone to make sure that all those elements work because, it's easy to be a good tactician when you're fast, or it's easier to be a good tactician when you're fast. What about technology on board? Like, I know you can't put too much on, but do you have any sort of, are you guys old school on technology, or, with all the sailing you've done, you've probably seen every form of technology there is. So do you do anything? Maybe
nothing really on the Etchells you can have, and so we don't have anything.
Yeah, no, I was pretty sure.
I think Colin and I are still in 12-year-old sailing gear from the start.
Yep. I was giving this chat. This is what I thought you'd say. Go on.
There's some pretty good rules on our boat. There's no bananas, no green tape. Yep. What else don't we have, Richie?
Not allowed to talk about rabbits. You have that one? That's a bit of a Frenchy one, that one.
That's new.
Haven't heard of that one. Yeah. Yeah. Got to drink your water. Yeah. Yeah. It's
hydrated.
And got to wear your red jocks. Pretty simple.
That's it. Back to your question about the strategy, it actually starts on the drive to the yacht club, Jordan.
Yep.
And it's all about avoiding the traffic.
Oh, yeah. I've tried to explain this to my wife when we drive in traffic. I said, no, why are you making that move? Can't you see down the course? Like every sailor does it.
So it's all about just keeping the thing moving.
That's it.
That is the truth.
Warm up.
It is the truth.
So, all right, well, the important question then becomes, like with the three of you guys, what do you think made you guys sort of different from a young age? I mean, Colin, you've got this amazing history of family, and it sort of continued with, you and your brother, and then the kids are coming through. I saw your nephew had an amazing result at the Opties. Iain, you've been sort of in front of us our whole lives. Like, what do you guys think the magic is for you guys? Where does it come from?
It's the fact that we love it so much, I think.
Right.
It's...
Yeah, I think because you're living and breathing it all the time. It's literally 24 hours a day. And, in my particular case, working for North Sails for nearly 30 years, you lived and breathed sailing every day of the week. And you just learn by osmosis, and, you're exposed to the best people in the world that you go sailing with and the opportunities it brings. And, that's basically where my friendship with Iain started, was 30 years ago. He came back from Perth after the Cup, and that's where we first met, and it's sort of grown from there. And, with Colin, you get to meet these guys, and for me personally, I worked out pretty early in the piece, the good guys are the ones that just go quietly about their business. They don't have to sing their praises or tell you how good they are. Their actions speak louder than words. And I think both Colin and Iain certainly dance to that beat. They're just get on with it, just do it properly. And, Cole, I think him sailing the boat out, Mother Goose out from New York to Sydney, having to stand a watch when he was 16 or whatever, and Adam at 8 or something.
Mm.
It's instilled in them, and big fella, I think the ultimate description of big fella was Bob Oatley's description of Iain, saying Iain thinks in colour. And I think
that's a good one.
Yeah, it's how big fella is, and he takes that with his sailing. It becomes natural, becomes second nature.
It's very cool.
You hear?
The thinking colours, that's a really lovely statement. I mean, it sort of suddenly makes everything a lot easier. Do you, Ian, you know, with the designs, obviously, as you said, you designed the 18-foot skiff. You were responsible for designing the kookaburras. You know, you had that whole design office. Did your brain work in a design mode a lot, you know, when you're not on the boat? Are you always looking at things and redesigning them in your mind, or...?
Yeah, I have this terrible disease that's very three-dimensional, and, you know, I see things that other people don't see. I don't know what it is, but things register in my brain that make me curious about something that, you know, wouldn't register in other people's brains at all. Wouldn't even see it. But for some reason, it strikes a chord with me. So I don't know what that disease is, but I've got it. And, you know, and some of these things, you know, I've always been quite inquisitive, and, you know, from my early days in sailing, you know, first stop was down in the back of Middle and Whitworth and go and hook onto Ben Lexon and start asking him questions. And that was a regular occurrence.
Wow.
So, you know,
cool.
And so that sort of started when I was 11 or 12. And I think when you stop asking questions is when the music stops.
It's very cool. Sorry to keep talking here, boys. I know I've dominated a bit. I apologise. I do want to, Beashel, you're a boat builder, I guess, by trade. Is probably the best way to describe it. Do you and Ian ever actually look, you know, Ian's come up with his idea and you look there going, you can't build that, you idiot. Like, do you ever have those sorts of conversations?
He's on mute, Bossy.
Anyway, well,
Colin would never say that. He might think it.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested.
No, not at all. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Right, am I back there with you?
Yeah. Back in.
Yeah. No, I enjoy being around Ian because he is that sort of person, and you know, I like to think that where I can be a little bit innovative, I can be as well. You know, like I grew up, you know the family history's there, and grew up watching my father build and innovate 16-footers from when I was a tiny little kid as well. And so it's just, yeah, I think that's, I don't mean to say sets us apart, but it may from some people, but it sort of does give us an insight into how a boat works, the fact that we've actually done it since we could virtually crawl.
Yeah.
And we've always been inquisitive on how everything works, and it just makes other areas come together easier further down the track. You just got a better understanding of the rig, the boats, the sails, and everything, and it just all adds up to hopefully being able to make some better decisions here and there.
So, no, anyone can answer this one, but seeing all these boats just flying around at the moment, and you're in an Etchell doing 4.6 knots upwind, do you kind of think, or the way that yachting is going and the way that you grew up and came up through the ranks, do you think you might have missed something, or you enjoyed it? I mean, Ian, I guess in the 18s, they were like at the top end of it now. But would have you liked to have been in the era that these young guys are now, guys and girls, and be flying around the harbour?
Sure, I'd love to have a second go at it. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
No, look, it'd be great to wind the clock back 30 or 40 years and, you know, be there, and the classes and the types of boats and the opportunities there are in sailing. You know, it's sort of, you know, the world is at your feet, really, and the opportunities and learnings are amazing, really. I think, you know, the thing is, you just have to grasp it, and we see young people grasp it, and we see others not grasp it. But it's, you know, all of the sort of the technology in the boats, and, you know, the high-speed sailing is what I tend to call it, fast boats and slow boats. Fast boats in my day were the 18-footers, when Father used to take me down to Bradley's Head to watch. They were the fast boats, but they're kind of almost the slow boats now.
That's funny. Yeah. One thing, it's obvious that we haven't sort of mentioned when you think about it, we've all talked about how good you guys are all on the sailing front, but you almost have complementary skills when you look at your trade, on the building side, on the design side, on the sail side. And then when I actually look at some of the work you did and, you worked with Tony Pearce at Whale Spars, who I think, Ian, you've got a long relationship with him, almost back to 87 or something, I think, from memory. But
earlier than that.
Yeah. So, the thought then suddenly becomes, not only have you got these sort of complementary skills, but the other thing is you've all been in the industry since, Moses was ordering, Noah was ordering in pieces. So when you need something done, you pretty much know all the best people to touch to get that stuff in, wouldn't you?
You just come to my garage.
Yeah. Okay. Right. What have you got?
Colin's workshop or Richie's workshop.
Yeah.
If we can't get it out of one of those three places, it's not worth having.
We need photos, so we'd love to have a look. It'd be nothing more fun than wandering around there. BP did.
So Colin's got all the wooden composite stuff.
Yep.
Richie's got all the ropes and wires and stuff, and I've got all the lathes and mills and metalworking stuff. That's how we've divided it up.
Yeah.
Welding.
I won't tell you what's in Bicey's garage.
Series 1 Land Rover 1950.
Yeah. Where Jay was going, we did Carl Ives and Dick Sargent a few weeks ago, and was lucky enough to be at Carl's house, and did the tour down there with the Flying Dutchman still there, and all the bits and pieces under his garage. What's that?
The Venom.
Yeah, it's all there, and that was pretty cool too. So I'm sure that if you combined his garage with yours, you could it would even deeper.
Sailor's garage.
That's it.
No one would go to the National Museum then. They wouldn't go to the Maritime Museum.
You could almost sell tickets to Carl's garage.
You could take that Land Rover out and slip his nice old Ferrari and Rives his nice old Ferrari.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Take that, Bicey.
Yep.
What about
straight over it?
What about the Olympics next Olympics with the new class? How do we feel on that? The double-handed and the Hobart actually with the double-handed. What do where have you guys got any views on that? You've done the miles.
Well, I think we've all done our share of miles at sea. Look, the offshore two-handed in the Olympics is a pretty interesting concept. It's probably suffering right now from the fact that the Olympics has gone back a year and still we don't know exactly what the race is or what the class is or what the boat is. And of course, compared to a laser, it's a very expensive endeavour. So, I think, talking to some of the people who've been interested, whether it be Adrian or, a few other people, seasoned athletes, probably a nice way to put it.
Well, you've got to throw Beashel in, don't you?
Jordan, you better give Jordan your theory on the Olympic class, mate.
I've forgotten what that is. Which one?
Oh, the over 50.
Oh, the over 50s
average.
Yeah, so we've been running
the 50s club.
Yeah, you've got to have an average age of over 50 to make the Olympic team. Given all the nominations we've seen so far in Australia, that's that.
Yeah,
one.
look, it's early days, and I think it's the way I see it is that it's an opportunity for the clubs and the youth and some of the senior ocean racing people to come together within the clubs and be more of a club type challenge rather than Australian Olympic team type thing. Where we're probably not going to have the resources. So I think what we've seen around with the Youth America's Cup, from the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron or Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, I see it more operating like that. going into the future. But it's still early days. There seems to be some question now that the Olympics has gone back a year, whether, the classes might hold or not. We'll have to wait and see over the next couple of months the outcome of that anyway.
Yeah, I'd imagine there'll be some pretty intense conversations behind the scenes with that.
Well, it's a big move, and you can see the benefit and, potentially, the carryover from what in the Volvo of the e-racing, participation outside of the athletes and the thing, could be a really novel and new experience for the Olympics. So there's a lot of different pieces towards it. But having said that, having foiling boards come in and the double kite medal for a single medal, there's a lot of change already to take in.
Well, what about you, Colin? Like 6 Olympics, you could do a 7th.
I like it. In a sense, I like the concept of the two-handed. Like, I can see the challenges of it and the difficulty and that sort of thing. It's just a matter of how it all comes together and how the race is actually staged, sort of like, I very much enjoyed following the Volvo and that sort of stuff, but it quite often broke my heart seeing some people leading in and then just sitting in arriving early morning and watching the fleet sail up and around them and different things that, which happens in ocean racing a fair bit when you when you have to finish, in a port up a river or something like that. And to me, that sort of finish at something like the Olympics is probably not the ideal scenario, but that's, to me, it'd be a course that doesn't necessarily, that tries to avoid that finish at the end, but then again, they're trying to have the finish close to the shoreline for the so-called spectators that we get in yachting.
Yeah, well, Marseille's not going to give it to them. Well, actually, speaking of spectators, and this is sort of probably my last question that I think of, and this is to all three of you. One thing that one of the whole reasons we created Bar Karate was to make our sport cool and create heroes and get more people back into the sport. What do you reckon we need to do to bring more people into our sport? You guys, from you, each of you, what do you think?
To me, look, sailing's a really complex sport, and I only wrote yesterday to some people that our sport, the guys from NASA described it as trying to combine an aeroplane, a submarine, and a destroyer into a tactical package, and it's a really complex game of chess we play out there. So I think making it fun, making it inclusive, and are really two key values that the sport needs to work on. We can make it incredibly complex because of what it is. And I think simplification of what we do is, we've seen that in, the America's Cup's gone from 4.5 hours to 25-minute races, and Sail GP races at 12 minutes. And, and they've got different things and they appeal to different people. But, the values of what we get sailing Etchells, they're not the fastest boats in the world. They're not the most exciting boats in the world. But, we're creating an atmosphere and a little club that people want to be part of. And it's not only young people, it's old people. There's a really broad spectrum of the sailing world involved, because I think all of a sudden it's inclusive and fun.
Yep, right.
Yeah, inclusiveness, that's been a word that keeps popping up when we ask that exact same question. And I was actually just down at the one of the clubs here the other day, or driving past, actually, and the gates were shut. And it's like, just open your bloody gates. Let people in. Let them get involved. What do you think, Richie? What?
Yeah, well, I think that's where Royal Brighton Yacht Club down in Victoria have done a really good job. They've changed that club to being, they had the big walls and, it was hard to get in, to having that cafe area where people can come in and they start to meet different people and, they think, oh, gee, I wouldn't mind being part of this. So I think, anything we can do to include people, and part of that's our responsibility. We've got to... I think you'll find the majority of the guys down there are approachable, and they're keen to help and have people out there competing against them, because we haven't got a sport if we don't have all these other people joining us. So it's in our interest to get more bums on seats, and part of that is welcoming them and just showing them a helping hand. I think anything we can do to make it better, more fun, and it comes back to, it's got to be fun for everybody, and that, whether that's having a beer with them afterwards or having a bit of a laugh. When I was a kid, it was jumping off the wharf, capsizing the boat. So I don't remember when the racing became important.
Yeah,
it was just about
mucking around with your friends,
banging around in boats with your mates.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And I think one thing that the Etchells is showing us at the moment is they're not wasting any time. You sort of get out there, you get the racing going, you roll it around. You're doing 3 to 6 races in 4 hours or something like that. You still got the rest of the other time in the day to do other things with the family or whatever you have to do these days. But you're still getting good quality racing in. It's shorter. You're doing, 7 or 8 starts, 10 or 15 mark rounding sort of thing, whereas the old days you'd start at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, you do 1 start, 5 mark roundings, and you've spent the whole day out there.
Yeah.
Half the time just following someone else around. So you sort of, it's a trouble. They try to combine a lot of classes, but as soon as you combine a lot of classes, trying to do multiple races, you end up with a lot of time sitting around not doing anything. And I think that's maybe that's something that needs to be looked at a little bit to keep things happening and keep it rolling.
Efficiency.
Hey?
Efficiency.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things that just made me think of is, and no disrespect to any race committee out there at all, but, how often we sit there with a PRO holding us there. Like, I think a lot of us would like to go quicker turnover. So
definitely, like I'd rather sail with a shitty breeze and an unfair line and get the race going half the time than spending an hour chasing backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the things that my time as the race officer for America's Cup and Sail GPs taught me. Where we're essentially a major part of what we're doing is we're running a television show. And so, to start on time and finish on time, and get a racing period in, like, Sail GP, it's, you have to start and finish on time, and it's critical. And so the turnaround and get it off and stuff is just so important to do. And I think that's part of what, we've tried to bring back to this Etchell, training races, and in the Australian sailing team, we do a lot of coach racing, and it's effectively the same thing, and so that's part of the appeal to the Australian sailing team, is that it's kind of part of their daily training environment anyway, and so it works there. Why doesn't it work for mainstream yachting?
I think other than big fella Sail GP and the likes, where it is television orientated, I think the racing needs to have a bit more flexibility. Like just because we've always started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't mean we have to keep doing that. And the weather forecasts these days are pretty good 24 hours out. So you can, I think you want to be able to say, okay, well, we're going to start the races at 10 o'clock because we've got good breeze, or there's a front coming, or something like that. And, with WhatsApp and those sort of things these days, it's pretty easy to get everybody on the same page.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of things we can look at to make the sport better, more efficient use of the time, and we'll get better bang for our buck, if you like.
It's still a great sport, though, isn't it? How good is it?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's tremendous.
Best thing in the world.
The guy, I start with Leslie Green on Ginger. The guy's 87. He's steering a McConaughey 38, having the time of his life.
Yeah, good.
And we've got guys that are in their early 20s on that boat. So, what other sports do you get to? It's ageless.
Yeah,
and you
Very
get
true. Very true.
The life lessons you learn from these different owners. Very, very special. They put their hand on your shoulder. They want to see you succeed. Pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Cool. I've got nothing else, gentlemen. What about you two?
I think it's been wonderful.
Not from my side, but I must say, man, we've had some legends on Bar Karate, but none more so than the three of you guys. So thank you very much. Thanks for telling us your story about a fantastic campaign. And yeah, we're big fans of the way you do it. Big fans of seeing you get out there and knocking everyone off. Fantastic.
And Richie, thanks for backing me up, telling me that I do get up in the morning.
I didn't say you went sailing.
Yeah. And the last thing is just locking in Bar Karate barge. Centre spot right in the middle of the course. Yep, we're just
yeah. How big's this barge, Jordan?
As big as many.
Oh, at least 400 to 500 people, I'd imagine.
So football field type size.
Yeah,
No.
Who's the manager? Warro or someone, isn't it?
Oh God, there's a
we might get that thing from up in Brisbane across, eh?
Yeah. Who's the next interview?
No.
Grant Dalton. He'll be next.
Yeah.
Well,
I hope he doesn't listen to episode 22 when I took piss out of him a bit. But
I'm sure he's heard it before.
Yeah.
Very cool, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot. See you on the water on the weekend.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us, boys, and keep up the good work, eh?
Cheers, guys.
You're doing a good job
Thanks
for the
very
sport,
much.
trying to promote it.
Thanks, Richie. Cheers.
Well, that was kind of amazing. BP, you pulled all that together, mate.
I'm a bit disappointed in both of you, really, a little bit, because you didn't sort of try and get any inside information from them about how to make these boats go.
Sorry, mate.
Because I can't really ask them direct and say, listen,
Well, it sounds like there is pretty good information sharing, but
I'm only joking, lads. No, it's true. The whole that whole the philosophy they're talking about is true. It's what they say. What they said in the interview tonight is true on the water out there. They are transparent, and that whole inclusivity thing is what they're working on. I mean, the fleet is growing. The Etchells fleet is growing in Australia, and it's what they're saying is working.
Yeah,
inclusive, mate. That was the and the other key word.
Oh, fun!
Not about the Etchells. No. Of course, it is this, but it was fun and inclusive. And I know we've discussed this before, and I know, Jordan, you've spoken about it several times. Like, some of the best places to go in the world are yacht clubs. Yeah. And those yacht clubs that are going to stock Bar Karate beer, well, of course, they're going to be great ones. So, in saying that, and Richie touched on it, as sailors, we have a responsibility, actually, to get that message across. And that responsibility, just do it this weekend or next weekend. Invite your mates, go for a beer down the yacht club.
I've got an idea.
Great idea.
No, I've got an idea even better. So,
okay.
I've always wanted to do this. Like with the three of you, I was going to do it one day. We're going to get video cameras and film it, and we were just going to pick friends who've never come down to a yacht club, right? And just say to them, Bossy knows, I've discussed this with him, just say to your friend, why don't you come down the yacht club and have a beer? Not tell them what to wear or anything, right?
And the attire.
And
I think you've told us this before.
Yeah, so they'll come down. I've got this vision of all these people turning up in their blues and whites and their reds, and they'll turn up and they'll find us all just standing there in our thongs and board shorts and t-shirts, and I reckon everyone should do that and then just give us the feedback. But invite non-sailor down and just open it up. So
Put on your whites,
put on
ladies and gents.
Maybe
there is a dress code. Just
and if
code.
Someone does come in the full kit, the what everyone thinks we wear,
New York Yacht Club necktie,
all that. Take
little
a photo.
Jersey over the shoulder with the arms tied together.
Oh, white knee-high shorts, knee-length shorts with knee-high socks with one fold.
Take a photo.
White leather shoes with leather laces.
Stop talking about what you're wearing now, BP. Take a photo and send it to cheers@barkarati.com and we'll try and set it up. But anyway, regardless, just for the good of the sport, though, maybe just invite a few people down and let's try and build the numbers. Let's just do it. Happens. Groundswell.
It's true.
All right.
Good.
Speaking of groundswell, we are a little bit fixated on the double-handed offshore stuff. I must admit, I do like the thought of it. I'm quite happy. I'm sad for the Finn, but I'm happy to see the double-handed offshore boat in. But a bit of controversy this week, BP, down your way, neck of the woods.
Well, it's been going on for a little while, I'd be thinking. I don't think that anyone 3 or 4 years ago, when they sort of started talking about this, realised the impact and or the interest that was to be the short-handed sailing. As it stands, the majority of the entries in this year's Sydney Hobart are short double-handers.
Hang on, just say that again. Are you serious?
I'm back.
Are you serious? The majority of entries so far in the Hobart for this year are double-handers.
I don't know the numbers exactly, but there's a lot of entries in the Hobart this year, double-handed. So it's really quite exciting. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, a lot of people don't realise that the interest that it has sparked, and it has created a fair few, let's say, traditionalists sort of asking questions as to what is actually going to happen now that there is such an interest. And one of the questions was, can a double-hander win the overall Tattersall's Cup? That's all I can say at this stage.
And the debate going on is that it's not agreed. Nothing's agreed, because the argument that I've heard, and I'm an outsider to everything, the argument I've heard is that obviously with the technology in auto helms at the moment, there's some argument that auto helms are faster than a normal human steering, and it's not accounted for in the handicaps or the ratings. I don't know that I believe that particularly is true. I can't imagine, with all the other things the double-handers give up in terms of what they're gaining from any auto helm, which I don't think anyone does, because I can't imagine any boat that's fully crewed actually using an auto helm to drive a fully crewed boat. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. So I'm intrigued. But yeah, so
in essence, the autopilot, especially the modern ones that you see the guys on the Mocha using, and that they are state of the art, and the development is moving forward rapidly. You're not going to see that type of equipment on many of these boats doing this race.
And they're not cheap.
No, to state that is a big call. Now, an autopilot of the level we'll be seeing in things like the Sydney Hobart, especially this year and maybe even the next year, will still be, let's say the H5000 system, for example, the B&G put out. It's good. It revolves around its gyro compass and its heel and its motion sensor, which gives the autopilot a feel that it is actually responding to what's going on with the boat. But it's nowhere near as good as a human. I mean, the big difference is that it can go longer, obviously, because it will just continue all day. But the argument is, and I think the argument stands, is that these 100-footers or even these 80-footers or whatever boats you've got out there, a lot of them have got powered winches. A lot of them are running canning keels, so they're utilising not manpower to run the boats. And it's very similar with an autopilot. In a double-handed situation, the argument is with an autopilot is, you've got to cook, you've got to navigate, you've got to change sails, you've got to do everything you do with on a normal boat, except instead of there being 17 or 18 or 20 of you, there's 2 of you. And I don't see it as an argument. I see it as I just think I think there's no argument, to be honest.
Well, as we joked last week, we did throw out the hypothesis that with COVID, if it continues trickling along and maybe the only class that can go south will be the double-handers, so...
yeah, well,
we'll see, but just don't make it. Let's not.
Maybe we should actually, before we send the barge over to NZ, we'll put the barge in the middle of Sydney Harbour.
Yeah,
I think so.
And we can just do the stores to all the boats that come for interstate. They sail into Sydney Harbour. They collect their stores from the race from the Barkarati barge.
Yeah,
and then go off through the start line. Off they go.
Oh, look, I think it's a perfect opportunity again. Barkarati just shines in things like this, looking at adversity, looking at the adversity of the conditions around us and helping out others. I mean, that's what we do here at Barkarati.
Okay, and one other thing. If they aren't allowed to race for the Tattersalls, right, if they decide that they're not eligible for the Tattersalls, then I nominate that we will create the Barkarati Cup.
Oh, and we'll donate it.
We'll donate the Barkarati Cup, and the double-handers will race for the Barkarati Cup.
Why don't we do it anyway?
Sure, why not?
So
I'm not sure how the CYC
if they do get
will
allowed to win the Tattersalls Cup, imagine winning the double.
Yeah.
Imagine getting the Barkarati Cup and the Tattersalls Cup. Which one would you hold up higher?
The Christmas double. He's walked away with it. Beautiful.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, listen, in all seriousness, I mean, it's a big debate. I mean, I don't know the answer to it, and as far as I'm aware, it's happening as we speak. But I think common sense will prevail. I hope common sense prevails because my whole business model is lined up around it. But hey, that's life.
Well, I mean, if there are that many entries, and I must admit, BP, when I'm out paddling my ski, I look at every single boat that I go paddle past now and think, oh, could you double hand that? Could you double hand that? So maybe it's just a different way of thinking. I think people are enjoying it.
I'll do it with my Land Rover, go past, defend. Oh, yeah, no.
No, I'll leave that joke for next week, Bicey. I was going to pick on you about Land Rovers. I do want to plug the work of Brian Carlin. We've brought up Brian a lot on this show, and he's handled it with such good grace, and he is a massive fan of the show, and he's a friend of ours, as is Nikolai Sehested from the Denmark Sail GP team. They've put together a 4-part documentary series, and parts 1 and 2 are out on their Sail GP team. I do suggest people go and hunt those down. Just do a bit of a Google. You'll track them down, but they're definitely out there, those docos. Talented sailors, talented documentary maker, and it's just going to be worth your time. You'll love it. So if you aren't aware of it, go and hunt it down. And I think you can watch it for free. I don't think there's any cost involved. So,
yep, do it. Do it.
Cool. Last thing I wanted to bring up, blokes, is... I'm not sure if we can even talk about this. So one of the things we've been trying to do for a few weeks is get David Tillett on the show as a special guest. For those who don't know David Tillett, he's been the chairman of the rules for the America's Cup for many editions. He's been the head of the rules committee for the World Sailing. And he's probably the man when it comes to rules. And so we thought it'd be worthwhile just understanding all that. And, we'd love to have him a guest on the show. And we actually were going to have him this week or last week. That was when the timing was looking good, but that all went out the window because he's been working on a ruling. And I'm not even sure what we can say with the America's Cup. So what can we actually say? Do we have anything? Bison?
So basically there's an arbitration panel set up of David Tillett, Graham McKenzie and Henry Peter. That's the 36th America's Cup arbitration panel. And it's essentially a ruling around Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
Now, without going into all the full details, but as Chris Hoskins actually pointed out in whatever episode that was that we had him on when he spoke about the Keeley-Fawley thing.
The Keeley-Fawley episode, yeah.
He said 100% Stars and Stripes are going to take Team New Zealand's first boat.
He did
say that in the lead up to the America's Cup. So the application had gone in from Stars and Stripes to use Team New Zealand's first boat and got shut down. Essentially. So you can read through the it's on the Sail World, it's on Sailing Illustrated, it's on every sailing site. You can read through the decision from the arbitration panel. But it's all based around manufactured or built in country, the boat, of which Team New Zealand isn't, for Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
And there's a few little loopholes in there and a few other items. And I'm probably completely wrong. But take a look if you're interested. That's what it was about. Doesn't look like they'll be on the start line. Pity, yes. But it's all about the America's Cup for the rest of the competitors. So,
once again, I'm disappointed. I thought you were going to go down a different path there and tell me that Chris Hoskins was going to be on the boat.
Oh, well, he didn't call that.
No,
it's a shame. It is a shame though. Like it'd be good to have another boat there.
You know, yeah. But I mean, it is a rule's a rule, and that's what those rules are pretty tight, and
What I think what they
Cup.
tried getting through is it's a deed of gift requirement.
Yeah, but
and they're not going to be sailing in their head. They aren't going to be sailing in the America's Cup. So they were going to be sailing in the lead up to it.
Saying that you're saying they knew they would actually never get to the America's Cup.
Well,
it's fair enough.
Yeah,
it's fair
that's one way of looking at it. But again, I haven't read the 20 pages there. Well, it's actually only 9 pages, but
looks like 20 pages.
But a deed
let's
of
just
gift,
make out we know exactly what's going on.
a deed of gift doesn't apply when you've got a challenger and a defender, and they actually create the rules that it's raced under. And if they can't agree, then the deed of gift applies. That's how I've always understood it to be. But anyway. It's a shame. We'd like to have seen them join in.
I've still got a bit of time up this sleeve.
Yeah. Could they respray it and then it'll qualify? They probably can't get it back to America to do it though. So yeah. Oh dear. All right. Anything else for you guys? You got anything else that we need to bring up we haven't thought of?
No, all good. Just a reminder: all the T-shirts have been sent. If they're the wrong size or you've got complaints, just send money, and we'll put it into the complaints department. So all good.
Yeah, and we've kept a few in stock. We thought was quite a generous amount of T-shirts in stock.
Yep.
Probably not.
There was only one guy though who rorted the system, who ordered a shitload of T-shirts, and only paid the one $10 postage fee.
I paid
That's
two.
what his name was.
I paid two.
Jordan Spencer.
I paid twice. And the fact that I have to buy shirts just like everyone else, it just hurts me when it's. But anyway.
Well, we could put ourselves more in debt.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
What was I going to say there? I've completely forgotten now. We thought we had a whole lot of stock, but that's disappearing quickly. So if you do want something, jump onto it early, and if they all sell out, I suppose we'll create a new one. Actually, we are going to create a new one based around the beer.
We are.
Yes.
In Bicey's words, it's going to be a ball tightener.
Ball tightener.
Oh, that's maybe that's just the advert.
All right, blokes.
All right,
fellas.
Good on you. Good night. Cheers.
See you, everyone. Thanks for listening.